In this video on the Nubia Pad 3D, I'm going to be going over a feature of the product that I use personally even more than LeiaTube, which I introduced in my previous video. And that feature is staring right at you, the camera that is built into this device, because this is the true killer app of the Nubia Pad 3D and the Lume Pad 2. And I'm going to be explaining all about why that is in this video. Without the case, this camera part of the device is actually sticking out a little bit. But if you put a case on the device, like this Nubia Pad 3D case, it is very well protected. As I demonstrated before, the camera is a little bit actually indented here with the case on so that you can lay it down flat and nothing's going to come into contact with the lens if you're putting it on just a normal surface like a table. Still, again, I prefer to have this flap up covering the camera and put it down just to be safe. So today's video is all about the camera, but not just this rear camera, the front camera as well. As you can see, there's also a stereo camera built into the front, which means, yes, 3D selfies, 3D videos and photos in either direction. The app that Leia makes this possible on is LeiaCam. So it's the camera app built into this Nubia Pad 3D. And it's right here, you can see LeiaCam. If I open it up, the interface is like a simple camera app interface. Pretty self-explanatory. But one thing you'll notice that is different right away is that there's this little pop-up thing that comes up, and it's surrounded in a green outline. And what this is, if you look very closely, maybe you'll be able to tell, but it's basically real-time depth estimation. So this is super cool because it allows you to see at a glance like what level of depth the different objects in the camera's view are at. So you can see like the Nubia Pad 3D box on the desk here is the thing that's appearing to be like cloudy white in the middle, because that is showing up as being the closest to the camera out of all the objects, except for maybe the desk itself, which you can see also appears to be quite white in this little preview box. As for the icons on this menu, first of all, you have the take button. To take a picture, all you have to do is push this white button. You gotta hold the camera still so that there's not blurring or anything like that. It's important with the stereo camera. There's two lenses, so it's easier for it to get a little bit blurry or weird. You gotta hold the thing still and then click the button and it'll blink and the picture is taken very quickly. If you want to see the picture you just took, you can click on this bottom right hand image and it'll pull up the picture in 3D. So this is the one I just took of the Nubia Pad 3D on the desk, and it looks beautiful. It's in 3D. I can move the tablet back and forth and the image stays very stable, or my head around. This cord coming off the edge of the table is popping off the screen. The tablet box is as well. So this is very cool. And then we have options to put it in the trash. If you don't like the photo that you took, you could take a couple photos. Some of them don't always turn out that great. You can delete it. There are a couple other things you can do. If you want to view it in 2D for whatever reason, if you turn the tablet too far away from your field of view, it defaults to 2D mode. So right now, this has gone back to 2D because it's not able to track my head right now. But if I point it back at me, it pops right back into 3D seamlessly. Very comfortable and easy to use. But if I want it to stay in 2D, all I have to do is click on the 2D button right here. And there we go. Now, if I point the tablet at myself, it still doesn't turn into 3D. I can examine the photo, see if everything is okay, if it's blurry or not, even in 2D mode, just to check how it is. And then if I want it to go back into 3D, I can just tap the 3D button right here, and it goes right back into 3D mode. There's also an editing button at the bottom. If you see a little bit of overlap of certain parts of the image, it gives you this slider to work with. By sliding this up and down, you can adjust it to the point that those like parts that look like it's kind of artificially double imaging go away. So this is a super smooth slider. Like if I slide it all the way down to the bottom, it gets really weird. It's totally double images and unstable. But if I slide it in the other direction, I can see that it starts to get closer and closer to being perfect. Those double images start to overlap until the point that they completely perfectly overlap. That's where you stop, save the image. You can create a new file or overwrite existing. So it allows you to keep both versions if you prefer to do that. I'll do that. I'll just create a new file so that I have the original and the new one. And then it'll allow me to work with the new one I just created right now, which looks better because I adjusted that like ghosting image that showed up a little bit. The other information that this gives you right away is a info thing. It shows the name of the file, the size, the dimensions, the file type, a JPEG, and the date it was taken. So useful information. You have to hit this X button, I guess, to exit out of this information thing. And then a sharing button. So you can share this image either as Leia's LIF image type, which is the standard default image type for the Nubia Pad 3D and the Lume Pad 2, or as an SBS image. And then when you click on SBS, it actually shows you the two images side by side. So it's pretty cool. And you can share it in either format to a bunch of different locations, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even Google Drive. So if I wanted to share this image with somebody else with the Lume Pad 2, for example, or Nubia Pad 3D, I could upload it to a drive, share that drive folder with them, and then they would just have to download it on their device from Google Drive, and it would appear in their Leia Player media folder. So it's very simple. I'll show you how to do that in another video. Essentially, you can just share this to any traditional place you might want to share it with. The very first one is the Leia Pix icon, which is their 3D social media service, which I love, by the way, and I'm excited to show you all about how to use that and what it's capable of. So these are all the options once you take a picture on the Nubia Pad 3D right now. There's probably going to be more editing options in the future, but this is what we have for now. And if you hit the back button, it brings you right back to the camera screen. On the left-hand side, you have this layer icon. All that does is get rid of the 3D preview, the depth estimation preview window. If you think that's in the way and you don't feel like you need it, you can just click on this layer button and it goes away. If you click on it again, it pops right back. Maybe you noticed right at the beginning, but if we close out of this camera app, for example, I'm going to swipe out of it and open it back up, it does not show up immediately. So there's no depth estimator yet. It takes a second. You gotta wait for it to load. And I would recommend waiting for this to show up like it did just now before you actually take your picture. That way you know the app is working properly. Sometimes if you try to take a picture too soon, at least with the app in its current form, it'll sometimes freeze and get stuck, and then you have to close out of it and reopen it again. It can be a little bit buggy that way. My recommendation is just to wait for this preview to pop up and then take your picture. And it seems to work fine that way. Here is another button, which is just the flash, I guess. I haven't really used this at all, just different types of flash settings, I'm pretty sure. This is the first time I've actually noticed this, but you can zoom. So there's a zoom button right here, and if you slide this up, you can zoom in and then take a picture in 3D up close, but from a distance. Now, you probably noticed on the right-hand side, there's this settings button, and it gives you all these different options. Image geotagging, image noise reduction, HDR, shutter sound, grid, show level, and then the version number, reset settings, privacy policy in terms of use. I'm not familiar with the details of all of these different options. I mean, if we turn on a grid, you can see there's a grid here now. Show level, so you can actually have this leveler, so that you know if your device is completely horizontal or not. So those are some of the settings. So then the other thing we can do is switch from camera mode to video mode very seamlessly. All you have to do is click this button on the bottom below the photo shoot button, and your camera button turns into a video recorder button. And if I push it, now I'm just recording in 3D, video in 3D. And then if you push it again, it'll go right back to photo mode. One other option we have that is very cool is to be able to take 3D selfies. So using this mode, I can take a selfie in 3D, just like this. It still gives you this depth estimator. You can take selfies from different directions at different distances, 3D this way. You can still preview it, so there's that preview option on the bottom. If you click on that, it'll pull the photo up in 3D, and it turns out actually very, it's impressively realistic. So I'm really impressed with the results of this inner camera. It turns out super high quality. It doesn't only capture me and my hair and shirt and everything in perfect 3D proportions. It also captures the stuff behind me, like my closet door and the desk and things like that. So it's a really solid 3D camera on the front too. The back one is the highest quality, 5K per eye for the image resolution of each image, but this one on the front is really, really good. And that's not all. Maybe you guessed it, but you can also do the same thing here. You can actually take a 3D video. Tap this bottom button here to switch over to the video mode. And then if I touch it, now I'm taking a 3D video selfie. Yeah, from what I found, it turns out beautifully as well. So when you're out traveling somewhere, if you're walking down the street, or if you're with a group of friends and you want to take a selfie, photo, or video, either one of those work on this tablet, which is incredible to be able to take anything on the go in 3D, whether it's in front of you or a selfie mode, both photo and video. This camera is incredible in terms of functionality for a 3D camera built into a device. Looking at the video right now, and it looks almost exactly as clear as the photo did in 3D. So this is crystal clear, like photo quality level. The video turns out so crisp in 3D, and it's got such impressive depth that it's really shocking that this is taken with like the secondary front camera. And if I pause it, for example, it's like looking at a 3D photo. Like this is a frame in this 3D video, but everything in this video at like every frame is captured crystal clear with great depth in 3D. So it's really amazing. This little preview button on the side, on the bottom right, shows you the most recent video or photo you've taken. If you click on that, you can actually swipe to the side to look directly at all the other stuff, photos and videos you've taken. So looking at this video taken at the box with back camera, just absolutely stunning quality 3D and amazing depth. So both cameras are great. back one is a little bit better, but they're both amazing. So to be able to have a portable device like this and take any video in like any way you want in 3D, I think it's really just unprecedented, and it's so cool. It makes it worth purchasing this device alone. Like, rather than getting a new camera for $1,000 or $900 or whatever it's gonna be, get this and you can take photos and videos, leave memories in 3D, but view it directly on the display without any glasses. It's so cool to be able to have this technology with you wherever you go. I'm actually gonna head downstairs and take a couple of videos and photos in a more open space and show you how those turn out at a distance, at a mid-range, and then close up. Okay, so I have the Nubia Pad 3D down here, and I'm gonna do a couple of tests at different ranges to show you the capabilities of the camera. So standing at about mid-range, which I find to be the ideal range for photos. And when you take photos of this, you'll notice that obviously it's better to hold the tablet still, especially since this is a stereo camera. If it wobbles or wavers a little bit, the picture turns out more blurry. And then if the subject moves, of course, it's not going to be as clear. I'm going to take a couple pictures while she's holding still, and now move a bit closer and see how the pictures turn out if taken up close. So at this range, her feet up until her head fill up the entire range of the screen, and I'll take a couple pictures like this. Sometimes the image itself dims and then you click on it and it'll brighten up, and I found that that gives better quality when you take photos like this. So I'll take a couple at mid-range and then close up. The depth indicator on the left is still in the green, so I'm not going too far to the point where it's turning red. Okay, next I'm going to take a long-range photo, and let's see how this one compares to the others. Capturing essentially the whole space back there. Both the dogs in the frame, actually. And we'll see how this turns out in comparison to the others. So next I'm going to capture just a video in 3D. Nothing crazy going on in this. Nothing's moving around at high speeds, and there's not a lot of lighting changes and things like that, but I just want to show you how a stable video like this turns out in 3D. So I'm going to capture the video right now. There's stuff in the background, but it's not really moving. If it gets out of focus, you can just tap in the middle and it'll refocus, and it shows the active depth estimation as you're filming your video. Even when things are in motion, you can see that it's pretty accurately capturing what level of depth everything is at in this estimation video. So this one is a good example of something that can be used to take pictures up close and see how they turn out on the Nubia Pad 3D. I'll take them at a couple of different ranges. So to start, standing a ways back, I'll take a photo of this entire fireplace, and then standing at about mid-range. It's well within the entire range of the screen, and I'm capturing a bit of the edge of the fireplace or the shelf, and then coming up right up close. It's telling me that this is still the green zone. And then if I want to take a super up close one, capturing part of the gingerbread house where some of it is actually off the screen, it's telling me too much depth. I've got a red warning indicator, but I'm taking the photos anyway. If I get way up close, as you can see there, the indicator is red. I'm too close, but I'm going to try holding very still and see if any of these turn out in decent 3D anyway. To view those photos and videos that I just took, you want to go to Leia Player, the media viewer app. And when you open it up, again, it'll default to like your downloads folder. We want to go to the camera. So on the upper left here, there's this option that shows like the different tabs or folders, and the second one is the camera roll. And that'll show all the photos that we just took. Let's take a look at how these turned out at different depths. So the ones at mid-range, right away I can tell everything looks perfect. There is absolutely no blurring, no double images. Just from the beginning, looks beautiful and perfect in 3D, just like it did in reality. I mean, I was just there in this moment, and here it is right in front of me again in 3D. All of these look great. Some of them are a little bit brighter than others, so again, for that, you might need to tap on the screen to like readjust the brightness. You want to get a really crisp, bright photo. Right now, I think when you edit the photo, once it's taken, there's not an option to adjust the brightness. I'm sure that's coming in an update soon, but we don't have it yet. Now looking at the next level of close-up distance, where my dog is taking up most of the screen, it's almost perfect still. I mean, I think it's beautiful. It looks really real. Maybe just a hint of a double image at her cheek or ears, hardly noticeable. I think this still looks beautiful. And then once we get very close up, this type of imperfection in the stereo camera becomes a little bit more clear. Towards the back of her side, there's kind of a lot of double image stuff going on. Her face since this is a close-up image, is coming quite a bit off the screen. So it's beautiful. It looks very realistic and 3D, but there's a little bit of like ghosting overlap, just a tiny bit noticeable on the nose and that sort of thing. But for me, it doesn't bother me. I think I enjoy images like this because of how 3D it is and how it's literally like popping off the screen. Awesome sense of depth. It looks real. So these turned out beautifully. And then the ones at a distance, also again, just perfect. Nothing wrong here whatsoever. Everything in the foreground, midground, background, all the way up to the back of the wall, and even the bookshelf on the right-hand side here is positioned at the perfect level of depth. Very crystal clear, high resolution in 3D. So this camera really excels at taking things at at a little bit of a distance away. I would say like 20 feet away, 10 feet away, mid-range. It performs incredibly, captures everything just as it is in reality. And then here's the video that I took. It was blurry at first because I didn't have the camera in focus, but now it looks like this. It's so cool to just be able to have a portable device like this that can take this quality of 3D video on the go. I mean, I just took this at home, but you could do it anywhere. It looks like a window back into this moment. The clarity might be slightly less clear than a photo taken by this rear camera, but since this is a 3D video, I mean, it's just stunning to be able to watch this. It's unbelievable to experience moments that you were just there for or weren't there for in 3D at this quality that you can take anywhere. This is a really precious thing to have and to be able to do. It's hard to believe that this is actually real or possible. I mean, it's so cool to be able to capture these moments instantaneously at this quality in 3D. Now, if we move on to that gingerbread house, I love this picture because it's got amazing depth and the proportions are completely accurate to real life. Even though these things are just totally ordinary objects, looking at it like this is not something you're used to. Like when we look at photos, it's always flat. But when you look at it like this, it makes all these really mundane, ordinary things look cool. And then here's a slightly closer up version of the same thing. Again, camera looks beautiful. The gingerbread house looks really cool. Very 3D. The corner of this fireplace counter is popping out of the screen about 1.5 inches. Same with the gingerbread house itself, but there's a little bit of blurriness going on with it. So I'm gonna try to edit it as I showed you earlier, and let's see if it fixes it or not. The chimney part seemed to have a bit of like overlap ghosting going on, so I slid that bar to the point where that one goes away. I'm just gonna overwrite existing, and I would say it looks better now. It's much clearer, at least if you're focusing on the gingerbread house part of the picture. But what happens when you do that depth adjustment, that overlap adjustment, is it brings the overlapping pieces of this middle range object closer together so that it becomes, you know, complete and there's no double images or anything. But it becomes more severe in the background. So the background, I don't know if you can tell, is all flickery now. Like if I move it even a tiny bit, stuff just kind of flickers back and forth and gets all weird. So that's what I don't like about this technology or the app in its current version right now. I think there's got to be a way to make it possible to adjust things at a certain level of depth, like mid-range, without messing up the stuff in the background. But right now, when you adjust things that are up close to you or at a mid-level or in the back, once you get that part to like the perfect level of overlap where there's no double imaging going on, it makes the part on the opposite like level of depth of the image more extreme and worse. It's okay if your eyes are just focusing on the object that you're interested in and you don't pay attention to the stuff in the back, no big deal. It makes the part you like perfect, but the other stuff gets kind of messed up. For that reason, I almost prefer images, no matter how they come out, the way they are, even with a little bit of ghosting or like double imaging going on. If it's not that severe, you hardly notice in the first place, and if you try to adjust it, it kind of messes up other parts of the image. If you leave it the way it is, then each part, the front, middle, and back of the image, all appear to be pretty good, with the exception of images that just don't turn out good in the first place. This one is more close up, and it looks really nice. I've found that like parts with white and black or white and dark colors like this brown tend to make that more prominent because you can see like the difference in color, and then when it turns into double image there's like a white part overlapping with a brown part and you can kind of notice it more. So if you're taking photos of stuff that doesn't have like this contrast of white and dark color, you actually will hardly notice it. Even if this is happening, you probably can't even see it, but just because of the color pattern in this particular type of image, it becomes more obvious. But it still looks really cool. I'm just being nitpicky. Like if you just look at this image, I, to be honest, wouldn't really be bothered by it or notice it that much. And then if you want to, again, there's not that much going on in the background anyway, so I can completely get rid of that by sliding this to the point where the images overlap at the appropriate level, override existing, and then bam. bam, now the picture is perfect. There is none of that going on anymore. The other thing I want to mention about that, like adjusting overlap feature, is that when you do that, originally the image may have been popping out of the screen, but as you adjust the image overlap or the double imaging to kind of be more perfect, for some reason it draws the image back into the screen. So now, although the image still looks 3D and it looks perfect, there's no more double imaging on the gingerbread house, it's no longer really popping out of the screen. So in order to achieve that, for some reason the app in its current form has to kind of like pull the image back into the screen as it brings the images on top of each other. But it still looks 3D. It just looks like you're looking through a window at a 3D object rather than part of the object actually popping out of the screen at you. And then here's a very close-up image where all this stuff just becomes even more pronounced and severe. So this camera is not really meant for taking super close-up images, I think. You can, and it depends on the object and the amount of lighting. If you have a lot of lighting, like, it turns out better. And this looks decent, like it's still viewable, and it's popping out of the screen about 2.5, 3 inches at this point. So there's a lot of pop out. I think I probably didn't take this picture as well as I could have anyway. So if you try pictures from a couple of different angles, multiple tries with various amounts of lighting, or if you just have good lighting to begin with, your results are going to be better. But if you go beyond this, then you kind of reach the limit. Because here we have something that's popping out like maybe, this is probably 8 inches off the screen. So it doesn't have like horrible overlap. Like the amount of pop-up is too far for it to remain comfortable. Maybe some people would be okay, but I feel like it just doesn't feel that comfortable. I think the original Lume Pad did a better job of very close-up pictures. At the same time, it doesn't do nearly as good of a job in any other area as the Nubia Pad 3D. And the resolution as a whole, even close-up, is still nowhere close to what this delivered. There's no question that the Nubia Pad 3D has the best 3D camera built into any consumer device ever. And it's just an amazing 3D camera to begin with. I feel like you could go without buying a stereo camera or a high-tech, really spendy camera and just get one of these and you're pretty much set for a long time. It goes really above and beyond what I would ever expect for a camera that allows you to take 3D videos in the front and back, 3D photos in the front and back, in high resolution, in 3D that's viewable in glasses-free 3D, the moment that you take it on a consumer device. Just unbelievable, incredible level of quality. It's not just taking photos, it's taking high quality, high resolution, beautiful photos and videos. In terms of the features built into the camera app, it's a little bit lacking in a couple areas. I mean, there's not that much functionality yet, but I am certain that there will be. It's going to increase over time. It's not that big of a deal. Right now, what I care about most is the ability to take these photos and videos instantly, enjoy them immediately, show them to family and friends right away in a very immersive way, and it just completely over-delivers in all of those areas. So considering everything that I've just discussed about the camera, this easily gets a 9.5 out of 10 from me. That score would be even higher had it had some other more advanced camera editing features. And then if some of that blurring, ghosting was a little bit more stable, maybe things can be done with AI to automatically correct some of that in future updates with the camera. I hope so. I'm really looking forward to seeing updates come out in the future to add more features. But right now, already, this gets a very solid score from me because it is a beautiful camera in a beautiful product. So that's it for the Nubia Pad 3D camera. I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to what it can do, the different features built into the tablet for the camera app, how it can be used and shared, and my recommendations for taking photos. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope it gets you excited to maybe want to purchase one of these devices and take pictures for yourself, because this literally is the #1 reason that I got this tablet. I have a lot of stuff that I want to capture in 3D, like things that I own, things that I collect, my family, my dogs, friends, all of that I can capture permanently in 3D and view it directly in glasses-free 3D on this display because of this tablet. So I recommend, just for this feature alone, I think this device easily makes it worth the purchase. On top of that, you have infinite content on YouTube essentially to convert into 3D to view, and all the other stuff in the features and apps that I'm going to introduce in videos to come. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and keep your eyes out for more videos on other really cool apps and content and features that are built right into this Nubia Pad 3D, as well as future ones to come and other 3D devices that will come out in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.